Have you ever wondered what makes a story truly terrifying? It's the account of someone who has experienced the inexplicable, the unspeakable, the horrifying. Eyewitness accounts aren't just horror tales. They are windows into the unknown, narratives that connect fear to reality in ways that fiction never can. Have you ever questioned what really lurks in the shadows of your own mind? Imagine discovering that the most terrifying events are often based on real experiences whose truths are more disturbing than any fiction. This is the power of personal testimony, where scientific terror intertwines with lived experiences, challenging our understanding and forcing us to confront what we'd rather ignore. Get ready to delve into stories from those who were there and understand why fear becomes more intense when recounted by those who truly felt it. Historical evidence. When delving into scientific terror, historical evidence often reveals chilling practices that challenge our understanding of reality. Various ancient cultures left behind records suggesting the existence of vampire-like creatures, weaving a complex web of fears and myths. Ancient texts and artifacts, such as those uncovered in Mesopotamia and Egypt, indicate that vampires were not mere figments of imagination, but possibly reflections of deep-seated, real fears. These records provide clues about the persistent dread and the desperate attempts to deal with the unknown. As you delve into these accounts, you begin to question how far scientific terror influenced the creation of these myths and what terrifying truths might lie hidden behind them. Analyzing these records, you might come across findings that chill the blood. Sumerian texts describe nocturnal creatures feeding on human blood, while Egyptian artifacts reveal burial practices designed to prevent the dead from rising as vampires. Such evidence not only fuels scientific terror, but also ignites curiosity about what these civilizations feared so deeply. Studying these ancient records can open a portal to understanding how scientific terror shaped perceptions of death and the supernatural in ancient times. As we investigate these pieces of evidence, we are confronted with the disturbing question: what if these vampire myths, far from being mere stories, were rooted in real experiences of terror? What might these accounts reveal about the relationship between the unknown and fear? As we delve deeper, it will be essential to explore how these findings connect with specific burial practices and how ancient peoples attempted to guard against the feared entities. What other dark secrets await us when we examine the burial practices related to these feared vampires? Tomb discoveries. In the realm of scientific terror, tomb discoveries often reveal funeral practices that are, to say the least, unsettling. Around the world, archaeologists have uncovered graves where unusual practices such as staking or decapitation were employed to prevent the dead from becoming vampires. One disturbing example comes from medieval European graves where bodies were found with wooden stakes driven through their chests, a brutal method used to ensure that the deceased did not rise from their graves to haunt the living. These rituals, steeped in scientific terror that transcends time, make us reflect on the profound fear that drove these cultures to use extreme measures to confront the unknown. One of the most chilling finds was a grave in Poland, dated to the 17th century, where a corpse was discovered with an iron amphora placed in its mouth. It is believed this method was used to prevent the person from returning as a vampire who would prey on the living. The use of such practices reveals a palpable fear of the supernatural and a desperate attempt to control the unknown. These findings not only offer insight into ancient rituals, but also raise speculations about what more might be buried with these bodies. What do these extreme methods tell us about the beliefs and fears of the time? And could these drastic measures be just the tip of the iceberg? To answer these questions, we need to explore the cultural beliefs and rituals surrounding these feared entities and how societies tried to protect themselves from the unseen terror. Cultural beliefs. When exploring scientific terror, it's fascinating to observe how different cultures historically believed in vampires and the elaborate rituals they employed to protect themselves from these entities. In various traditions, vampires were not merely legendary creatures, but a central part of everyday fear and superstition. In Eastern Europe, for example, beliefs in vampires were so prevalent that they led to practices such as using iron pins and placing garlic in graves to ward off these feared beings. This collective fear reveals a deep connection between terror and humanity's attempt to confront the unknown through spiritual and superstitious practices. In the East, Chinese traditions also hold stories of vampire-like creatures known as hopping vampires, or jiangshi. These entities were described as corpses that rose from their tombs to drain the life force from the living. To combat these threats, the Chinese employed a range of rituals, including the use of talismans and exorcism ceremonies to keep these creatures at bay. The diversity of cultural beliefs about vampires highlights how fear of the supernatural transcends boundaries and eras, shaping rituals and practices to deal with scientific terror. These cultural beliefs offer a window into the human mind and how societies dealt with the fear of the unknown. How did these practices and rituals evolve over time, and how did they influence our understanding of terror? Is there a common pattern across cultures, or did each develop its own methods for facing fear? To uncover these answers, we need to analyze how scientific explanations began to shape and reinterpret these ancient myths, connecting cultural perceptions of terror with modern understandings of the supernatural. Scientific explanations. In the world of scientific terror, scientific explanations provide an intriguing perspective on the origins of vampire myths. Often, natural phenomena and diseases were mistakenly interpreted as signs of vampirism. For example, porphyria, a rare genetic condition that causes light sensitivity and can lead to receding gums, is frequently cited as a possible explanation for vampire myths. Those suffering from this condition might have developed physical and behavioral traits that were misinterpreted as signs of vampirism, thus fueling fear and terror in their communities. Additionally, the phenomenon of decomposing bodies producing gas bubbles, which can make it appear as though they have moved or even spoken, may have contributed to the perception that the dead were returning from the grave. These events could have generated genuine terror, leading the living to develop ritualistic practices to ensure the dead would not come back to haunt them. These scientific explanations not only reveal how limited knowledge can fuel fear, but also show how modern science seeks to demystify ancient terror and reinterpret evidence in a new light. Understanding these scientific explanations is crucial to linking primitive fear and ancient rituals with contemporary perceptions of vampires and the supernatural. What more might these explanations reveal about the origins of myths? And how do these scientific theories shape our current understanding of terror? As we explore these questions, we can begin to see how scientific and cultural perceptions intertwine, influencing contemporary vampire folklore and popular culture. What other insights might the future hold about the intersection of science and mythology? Modern implications. When connecting scientific terror with contemporary vampire folklore, we find a fascinating intertwining of ancient beliefs and modern popular culture. Historical vampire myths, once fueled by real fears and rudimentary scientific understanding, continue to influence modern imagination. Movies, books, and TV shows, such as Dracula and Twilight, draw on these ancient myths, depicting vampires in ways that blend the supernatural with fictional scientific elements. The impact of these myths on popular culture shows how scientific terror can transform into entertainment, keeping ancient fears alive but now in an alluring new form. Moreover, archaeological discoveries and scientific explanations about vampirism continue to shape our perception of the supernatural. The growing popularity of science-based horror narratives, such as monster movies and sci-fi series, suggests that fascination with vampires and other supernatural beings has not vanished but evolved. Science and terror intertwine, creating a foundation for modern stories that explore the boundaries of knowledge and fear. These modern narratives often mix scientific theories with supernatural elements, amplifying fear and suspense in ways that continue to captivate audiences. How do these modern perceptions reflect and expand upon ancient myths? Does our understanding of scientific terror and cultural beliefs continue to shape the stories we tell? As we explore these connections, we may discover new ways to interpret the supernatural and understand how terror adapts to cultural and scientific changes. What more might we learn about the intersection of science and mythology in the future? Now that you've delved into the secrets of scientific terror and eyewitness accounts, it's time to reflect on how these narratives impact your own life. What would you do if you encountered the fine line between science and the supernatural? These accounts are not merely horror stories, they are direct challenges to our understanding of reality. By applying this knowledge, you can begin to question what is true and what is merely fear. This is your moment to break free from the chains of the unknown and embrace the power of understanding. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to continue exploring the fascinating world of scientific terror and stories that defy logic. Don't let fear control you. Use knowledge to confront what lies beyond comprehension. What you've uncovered might just be the beginning. Ready to uncover more mysteries and face the unknown?